Hey everyone, so we got to talk about the Mitch Marner situation coming out of the trade deadline. Massive drop from Elliotte Friedman talking about that there was a trade on the table, Marner for Rantanen at the deadline, and the Leafs actually asked Mitch Marner to waive his no movement clause, it sounds like, and Marner said no. But at the same time, reports are coming out that Mitch Marner is very willing to test the market. So he's not going to let the Leafs look into a trade. He's also not going to sign an extension. We got to talk about it here, all right? Anyone that's kind of going at Mitch, though, and anyone that's going at the Leafs right now, I mean, this is a Kyle Dubas management at the time situation, right? Whoever made that decision to give Mitch Marner the no movement clause at this point in his contract is at fault here, frankly, right? So you look at the Leafs, you look at the situation with Mitch Marner, you look at the lack of playoff success. There's so many layers to this. I would say based on Mikko Rantanen's contract extension with the Dallas Stars, you can use that as a comparable. The only downside is if Mitch Marner's camp uses the tax situation as a comparable. And I think with the gap from the tax situation in Texas to what it would be in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, a bit different. I think there are some different stipulations in the rules, like obviously where the guys spend time and living throughout the year, but I would say overall, you're probably looking at if Rantanen's making $12 million, Marner's reference point could be at least $1 million or $2 million more because of the tax situation. I don't know if that's a good argument. To me, the Leafs shouldn't really care about that when they're using a reference. Rantanen's a great reference. He's also won a Stanley Cup. I will say the fact that this was on the table, and a lot of people are going to say it, we'll pull it up here, kind of the overall conversation on X right now. Rachel kind of brings up a good point. It's the two paths. He has a good playoff, stays at a reasonable contract. It is likely he sees his number retired. Again, do you go that far? Well, we'll see. If Marner re-signs at a number in the 12 range, I think a lot more fans are understanding of the cap going up, the Leafs still having a lot of room to build around, the moves that Trey Living just made, acquiring Brandon Carlo, 15% retained, and Scott Lawton, 50% retained. That's huge for the cap going forward. So if they can get Marner at the 12 number, that's a lot more reasonable than anywhere close to 13 or 14. The second option here is he has a good playoffs and tries to fleece the Leafs, or he has the bad playoffs again and still asks for that money. He'll be one of the biggest villains in his hometown. I think a lot of Leaf fans will turn on him again. It was positive, big setup in the Four Nations. He had a great, I would say, outing in the Four Nations, and to come back and have a big playoffs would really win a lot of fans back. And even more so, if he can just understand that there's 1 million of a gap here that could go from good PR to bad PR for Mitch Marner. So does Mitch Marner leave in free agency? I go back to this on the screen. This is nuts. And this is right from Elliotte Friedman. We can click on the article and kind of go over it. But there's a couple lines in this from Elliotte Friedman that's pretty crazy. So Sportsnet's Nick Kyprios originally had reported the Leafs' final offer was Easton Cowan, Fraser Minton, and 2 first-round picks for Mikko Rantanen, which is nuts. It sounds like 2 factors. One, the Hurricanes, I'm sure, just preferred the Stars offer. That's my assumption. I think I would probably take Logan Stankoven over Easton Cowan. It depends how they looked at Fraser Minton. But yeah, you get both Cowan and Minton. I would take Stankoven today. I think he's got a lot more to offer, and now he's going to get more chance in Carolina. The 2 first-round picks, it seems like it was across the board. Both Dallas and Toronto were offering the 2 first-round picks along with those pieces. The Hurricanes initially asked for Mitch Marner, according to Elliotte Friedman. Because it was for Rantanen, the Maple Leafs had to consider it. They told the winger that the desire is to sign him, but they had to ask in this case. As is his right, Marner declined to move, reiterating his desire to stay. So, unreal. I think it's pretty crazy. I was reading all of this earlier, and I was like, I kind of have to talk about it. I have to make a video about it because I kind of figured Carolina would ask. The part that's kind of shocking is I didn't know the Leafs would ask Marner. If that's accurate and the Leafs actually went to Marner and asked him to waive, that's going next level. If I'm Mitch, I'm getting turned pretty negative on that. And I think that might push Marner to test the market even more. So who knows what happened in kind of the order of these events? Did the report of Mitch Marner being more willing to test free agency come after him being asked to waive his no movement clause? We don't know if this was a conversation maybe earlier in the week. I made the video that the Leafs were maybe going after Mikko Rantanen, and people were chirping me pretty heavy. But there was talk and speculation around earlier in the week. So maybe it was as early as start of week, like as I'm recording here on Saturday, trade deadline was yesterday. Maybe it was days before when the Leafs approached Mitch Marner and asked him to waive his no movement clause, or if he would consider it at this point in the season. So regardless, there's so many layers to this. We don't know what's exactly accurate. But yeah, go check out the article from Friedman. Pretty interesting. And I think a lot of Leaf fans, kind of the review online, like this is a pretty big deal. So give me your thoughts, guys. I think this is also a good point from JD saying Marner didn't want to waive, but if you're the Leafs, why even try to trade for, sign Rantanen if you believe Mitch is staying? At the very least, all of this looks like Toronto thinks he's gone this summer. I don't know if I'm going that far yet, but I will say clearly the Leafs are uncomfortable with where this could go. Again, I'm thinking negative hypothetical. Leafs lose in the first round or even in the second round. Mitch Marner demands $14 million a year. In what scenario can the Leafs give into that? Truly, if you lose in the first or second round, it's an underwhelming playoff performance again. How can you give into that contract from Mitch Marner? Especially when William Nylander's at the number that he is, and you could argue Nylander's been more impactful for a bigger stretch in the last couple seasons here. And then obviously in the playoffs. So that's the tough part, right? Could you seriously give Mitch Marner $2 to $3 million more than William Nylander, especially if the playoffs don't go well? So that's the question I'll ask everyone in the chat. Get your comments. And just, here's the thing. I'm kind of going already, it's a playoffs ahead, and it's a year right now, but then you start thinking about the offseason stuff. Hypothetical. I always like thinking the hypotheticals. If Marner was to go walk in free agency, I think Jared McCann, I would say recover what Dubas did, Trey Living, and try to get McCann back. I think that'd be a great option for the Leafs in terms of a first or second line option. $5 million cap hit. That would create a lot of flexibility for the Leafs to do big stuff in free agency still. So maybe you have to trade Easton Cowan in that. Maybe you dump the Domi contract if he doesn't work out well in the playoffs. I don't want to talk ahead here because, again, I hope Max turns it around. And as I'm recording, I really hope Max has a great playoffs because he actually played fine. He played decent in the playoffs against Boston. A lot better than other guys. So, again, I'm just going to go over scenarios of guys they could target in free agency. Sam Bennett would be one. Iafallo would be another one. Ekblad would be another one. Imagine they just keep bringing in former Florida Panthers. But the one that, for me, keep an eye on is Matthew Nyes. If there's any scenario where you can get Matthew Nyes at even a 4 or 5 year deal at $7 million, I say do it. I think his number is going to keep going up. And if he has a good playoff run, it's going to be higher. I said a few months ago that I would sign Nyes right away to an 8x8, something like that. And a lot of people called me crazy. But I think a lot of those people, seeing now that the cap has gone up and seeing what numbers could be handed out, that Matthew Nyes is probably getting close to that number. And maybe he doesn't even want to sign that long term because he thinks he can make more with the rising cap. So, guys, let me know your thoughts, what the Leafs should do. Obviously, it's the trade deadline's passed, so you just got to ride it out. And let me know if you guys think, regardless if he has a good playoffs or not, are you giving $13+ million to Mitch Marner? So we'll talk about it. Subscribe, like, comment, notification bell. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.